Paris is speaking to him and he's listening. That's what attracts so much of us to Paris in the first place, is that infinite possibility. Hello everybody, welcome to a film club discussion. Today we're going to be talking about a film Molly and I have watched multiple times.
Yes.
We like a lot.
Yes. Midnight in Paris by Woody Allen. Woody Allen, no.
Yeah, it's Woody Allen.
Is it Woody
Well,
Allen?
and this is probably a great place to start. The French love Woody Allen movies.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely crazy, nutty bar about them.
His style is more French, I would say.
For sure. And we're going to skip over any accusations about Woody Allen and his life.
Yes.
Artists are troubled in many ways. Our channel's not really equipped to deal with the difficulties of artists.
No.
But we can talk about why the French like Woody Allen, and I think part of it is the conversations. Mm-hmm. So the French love having long conversations, meaningful conversations.
Yes.
And I'm not saying every conversation in a Woody Allen movie is meaningful, but at least it pretends to be meaningful. And there are a ton of these going on here in this film. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily, I don't necessarily love this movie because it's a Woody Allen movie. I love this movie because it's a Paris movie.
Yes.
And obviously that's why we're talking about it today. And Molly and I have alluded on more than one occasion to the opening montage.
Yes.
And how would you describe that to someone who hasn't seen it, Molly? We'll put a link in the description so you can pause for a moment before watching us opine about it. Go watch it. We'll put a link in the description and then come back to what Molly's about to say.
And we might even be able to sneak a clip in there.
Okay.
Maybe, possibly. But
Well, I have to ask the editor.
Yes. If you want to know what, cliche quintessential Paris is, I was about to say tries to be, but it's not trying. She is. Watch the opening montage of Midnight in Paris. I remember watching it probably for maybe the second or third time after I had finished my semester abroad and I was back in the United States, dreaming about my semester abroad, and I remember sobbing watching this opening montage because it's just clips of mostly the center of Paris, so mostly the monuments that are along the Seine, their Haussmannian buildings, which is that very quintessential Parisian architecture, and it's all set to, yes, great example, we have a prop, and it's all set to this, very beautiful cliche French cafe music.
Si tu vois ma mère by Louis Armstrong.
And it is very beautifully shot. I mean, the footage that they got of Paris, Paris is showing off in every single way, and it does an excellent job of showing the best parts of the city, I think.
Yeah, and in a sense, the plot is almost secondary. Like any Woody Allen movie, there's nothing important going on.
Yes.
It's just an excuse to tell a story about Paris. And I would say one of the central conceits of the film is an American who has been caught up in the Hollywood lifestyle and making money, and his wife very much wants him to keep doing this, and he thinks, no, maybe I'll be penniless and work on that artistic venture in Paris. And Paris is speaking to him and he's listening. The French character his love interest, and I'm forgetting her name now, but she played Inspector in the Bond films. No. But
oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her name's on the tip of my tongue. We will put it in later. Insert right here. But she is playing this, not quite ingenue, but she is also receiving his attentions and saying, this is Marion Cotillard's the other character. I'm thinking of the one where it's so great to experience Paris in the rain.
Yes, is it Melanie something?
Yeah, and so she is receiving our main character's attentions, and she is painting for us this world of openness to Paris and exploring every possibility. And I think that's what attracts so much of us to Paris in the first place, is that infinite possibility of the day, of the evening, when you go out and you get out of the metro and you think anything's possible tonight.
There is that feeling in the air in Paris, I think, and it's one of the things that attracted both of us to the city, is the feeling of endless possibilities. And I think the movie does an excellent job of illustrating what so many Americans are attracted to about Paris, is coming and, yes, living penniless, a la Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald. Let's go sit in a cafe for 8 hours and write in a notebook, maybe bringing a watercolor set with us. We're painting, we're debating, we're smoking a pack of cigarettes. That is, I think, what a lot of Americans, when they think about Paris, that's what they think of. And it's so different than anything that we have in the United States. And I think the movie, the way it's shot, the way Owen Wilson's the way he's experiencing the city, it's almost as if like I can see so much of myself in him. And being like, wow, I too can live like Ernest Hemingway and be penniless, but we're in Paris and it doesn't matter. Like, we can sleep on the streets and it'll be totally fine. I think that's kind of like the overarching goal of the movie.
Sure, and I would say the second one right below that would be, am I living in the time I'm supposed to live in? There's always this romanticism in any of us. I would say, 1452. And Stephen, are you sure about that? But that idea of, am I in where I would like to be? And the film plays with that idea. Okay, well, what if you were in this era? And one of the characters, the Marion Cotillard character, makes a choice to go into a different era. I think it was the Belle Epoque that she chose. That, what is it about that time era that attracts you? And what would it be like if you actually lived in it? And it's easy to romanticize, and it's easy to think about that, because so often when we dream about things, we edit out the bad and we focus on the good, and we say, well, it's going to be like that, and that's why I'm going to love it. And with this particular look back in history, we get this glamorous Paris. Paris becoming electrified changed the city. I was going to say it electrified Paris in a certain sense. And it created this nightlife and these opportunities of collaboration, long conversations that didn't exist before. And part of what we're exploring in the film is that. Have you had any of those late night cafe conversations that live long in the memory?
Yes, of course. Think back to dating my husband, Pierre, and we had so many of those moments. I think back to our very first date. He took me to a speakeasy style place right near the Metro Sentier, so
Yes.
it's Rue Montorgueil,
Yes.
right?
It was underground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, do you know the place?
I don't know if it's there anymore, but I know the place.
Okay, so that's where Pierre took me for our first date. And I
Wonderful.
remember being so nervous because we, up until that point, had only been speaking in French. And I was like so excited for the date, but I'm like, how am I going to talk to this person for hours on end in French? It was the first time I had ever dated someone fully in French. And I mean, you guys can guess the end of the story. It's my husband.
Spoiler alert.
We ended up, talking. We met up, I think, probably at 7:30 or 8, and missed the last metro to go home. Had to take taxis to get home.
Right.
And I was fine in French. It was totally fine. And that's, thinking back, that's probably my favorite late night cafe conversation, just because of the significance with me and Pierre.
Sure.
But I mean, definitely this had similar experiences with good friends too.
You bring up dating because I've said before, and you've heard me say this, that it's somewhat of a time warp. You can make great progress because you're in a context, language exchange. If you're sitting across from someone that, where are you from? Tell me about your family. It feels very safe in a way. You're not going to get too deep with your language exchange partner, but for whatever reason, dating allows you to ask inappropriate questions in a language exchange format. So, tell me about your dreams. Tell me about what it is that you want to do with your life. Do you want to have kids? Although I'm not saying you all did that on your first date, but that then opens doors to larger cultural questions. And sometimes I don't know if I ever told you this, Molly. One time I was dating a Belarusian girl, and I was not so much interested in her as her culture. She was not that interesting, but I was really interested in Belarus, and I thought, I'm just dating you for your culture. But that sense of being able to learn more and get more insight, the film is pointed to that in our different romantic liaisons, if we can call them that. With the Rachel McAdams character, obviously she turns out to be a terrible person. But that's also part of French life, unfortunately. This the marital infidelity, I don't know. My only explanation can be there is the idea, a traditional idea, that this could happen and that wasn't a reason to end a marriage in previous times.
Yes.
And I think that that's changed as obviously customs and morals have changed in France. But there is a nod to that here, that it's totally normal. Yeah. And I think still as Americans, we find that choquant.
It's interesting because I now, being married to a French person, I have my French family now, and it's a great resource for me to be like, is this stereotype true? Is this cliche true? And while I do think that like extramarital affairs are more normalized in France, it's still not normal. Like my in-laws would be mortified, they would be mortified to know that that's like a stereotype about French people. And
I mean, the reason why it is because there are expressions in the culture that are idiomatic, like 5 à 7, like from 5 to 7. This is the excuse from between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. I'm not at the office, I'm not yet home, and something could happen during this time period. We don't have anything like that in English. So the fact that these idiomatic expressions exist doesn't mean everyone is doing it, but it means that not only does it happen, but it's somewhat known. And as you say, approved would be a strong word, but known and tolerated to an extent, and I would argue that I think that's changed. I think that it was more tolerated.
To your point,
it was more tolerated, I think, for centuries in France.
Yes.
And the women's changing role and women's changing perspective in France has made that less tolerable. But that's also because the French are not getting married as often as they used to, whether they're using PACs as a vehicle or not even PACs. You don't have to have a dramatic divorce if you're not married. And so the landscape of that has changed. And so the film is talking about the cliche, the generalized idea of France, but France is changing before our eyes. For better or for worse.
Yes. And it is interesting that like dating comes up because it is such a key part of the film too, because in the film Owen Wilson's, he's the main character, he is married, right? Yeah, they're married, but
the mother-in-law's around.
Yes, okay, yes. So they're married, but a lot of the film are women showing him what Paris can be and what it could mean. But I feel like there's a little bit of that in every Woody Allen movie
too.
Sure,
of course.
Yeah.
He's no prize. He's probably speaking from real life.
Yeah.
The other thing that you think about, obviously art is going to comment on art, and there's various points where we're in a museum, like we're outside the Rodin Museum, and of course that's showcasing France, but that question of art is such a important part of French culture. It's very rare that you're going to find a French person, I'm going to create a list, like doesn't read books, doesn't like art, doesn't like music. Pick one. And I'm okay, sure, Stephen, you could say that about Americans as well. But what I mean is a deep appreciation of one of those things, and usually all those things go together. There's an appreciation of getting to know those things that it's far likelier that I will run into a French person who has gone to an art opening at least once in their lives, as opposed to an American.
And I think it's a point of pride for they have pride in the fact that the French people and culture as a whole has produced so much art, and I think that's really like a value in French society. And so I think French children like learn that, whether consciously or not, that art is something to be appreciated and to be proud of.
Because it's not work, and in the sense that a lot of what we have in America revolves around our work, and we have office stories, or I suppose I haven't worked in an office for thousands of years, but they would talk at water cooler about the latest television show that they watch, and these things revolve around that. But art is something that stands outside of that. Same thing with music. And so then the question can be what we're recording this right after Fête de la Musique. Fête de la Musique as something that exists, and it exists in different parts of Europe. I think it started in France, it spread to other parts, but I would love to see something like Fête de la Musique in America.
Me too.
And it would be a wonderful experience. If you're unfamiliar with Fête de la Musique, we'll put a link in the description. You can basically enjoy music all throughout France on that day, even in the smallest small towns.
I was saying just this morning to Stephen, it's my favorite day in France. Yeah. I'm a summer girl anyway, so very happy that it's the first official day of summer. But the ambiance in the streets, it's just so fun.
A lot of joy.
Yes, joy is the great word for it. And I have so many memories of Fête de la Musique. Sometimes it's so hot. I have so many memories of it being literally 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're just walking through the streets listening to music. So like convivial, the atmosphere.
I think we've given you enough of a taste. What we're trying to do in these film clubs is tell you why we like a particular film. Sometimes we're going to try to get into French film in particular and dig into that. But in general, if you can't go to France yet, or you're dreaming of going to France, we were trying to build a universe that is coherent for you.
Yes.
And so part of that is films, books, etc. And Midnight in Paris is Paris focused, French generalized, but I think it's a very rich tapestry for you to draw different things from. And it might make you cry as it made Molly cry in the montage. Maybe only if you'd experienced Paris, but perhaps even if you haven't experienced Paris, maybe it will inspire you in that way. But it's a film that I recommend to get to know Paris better, and it's something that I enjoyed watching after. I didn't watch it until I'd lived there. So I think I watched Midnight in Paris like 6 years into living in Paris. And it was, going back to the word joy, what a treat it was to think like, wow, I live in this city. And we've said this before, we've had pinch me moments in Paris, but watching a film when you can say, oh yes, I've got my own story about that particular area. And I suppose maybe I'll close with that, Molly, because I'm trying to pair your deep conversation with Pierre on that first date. And I'm thinking there are so many times I've had good conversations with people. We didn't necessarily talk about here's how world peace happens or solve a big problem, but I think it's having those conversations about insights that you have in your life. And so often as you're saying it, you're realizing it. That's part of the human story, is that as we tell stories, we're not just telling them to others, we're telling them to ourselves, and we come to a realization. I've had that happen recently on a couple of issues where I had a long explanation to somebody and I thought, oh, that's what I think about that.
The first time you're articulating it.
Yes, and so giving yourself that opportunity to do so is something, and Molly and I spoke about this on an interview recently. French life gives you more of an opportunity to have those conversations and have those insights simply because how life is structured here. That I have apéros, I have coffees with friends, and they're not rushed. I'm not going to try to squeeze in a coffee. In fact, a French person would refuse. Can we do coffee between 3 and 3:45?
Oh, my husband, if he can't be there for 6 hours, he's not going.
Well,
I'm not even exaggerating.
I'm going to shorten Molly. I'm going to shorten Pierre's 6 to, let's say, I don't know, 2.5 or 3.
Yeah.
But the point is still, we will say we'll take what we can get. It's like, oh, is that's all you can do, 3 to 3:45? A French person, they're not trying to be rude. They're going to say, well, why don't we wait till you have more time?
Yes.
They're saying that because it would stress them out to try to do a 3 to 3:45 coffee date. And I understand that's more like the New York City lifestyle. That's not for everybody. But the idea is still, where am I having the space in my life to have those conversations and those insights, either into my friends or into myself? Well, they can only happen in conversation or in peaceful thought, whether you're in nature or elsewhere, where you're free to think, no screens, no internet, no movies. And French life enables this for you. And so one of the things that makes us passionate about French life is we know what it's done for us, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And we want that for you. We want that for everybody.
Yes.
We want that for everybody. So
that's
if you're
why
watching
we do
this,
what we do.
yeah, we want those insights, and France will just make it easier. It doesn't mean that French people are the only people with insights before the all police show up in the comments. That it just makes it easier. In fact, it's harder for a French person to be detached because there's so many touch points for them in their social life, in their daily lives from when they were kids to have those conversations. So if nothing else, Midnight in Paris is a conversation or movie that reminds us that conversations are one aspect of us growing as human beings, and that Paris will help you do that. France will help you do that if you let it.
It's so funny you mentioned conversations. One of my best French friends just had her birthday, and I asked her how it went, and one of the things she said, it was such a great night, we were all together, great conversations. So it's such a tenet of French life, and it's so important to French people, and I think Midnight in Paris gives you a great opening to start that conversation with either a French person or American who also wants to move to Paris. Definitely top of our list. That's why it's our first film club episode. And if you feel like crying to beautiful scenes of Paris, go watch it right now.
And keep the conversation going, obviously, in the comments. Take a watch, or tell us that you're going to watch it, then come back in the comments and let us know what you think. Yes. Molly Steven, you were wrong. I hated this film. Let me tell you all the reasons why. Or I loved it. Here are the reasons why. Favorite scene, favorite moment, favorite character. Let's keep the conversation going so it's not just Molly and me talking, but it becomes a conversation for all of us in the comments.
Absolutely.
So until next time, for Film Club, à bientôt.
À bientôt.